Hey everybody, I'm Paul Wilke.
And I'm David Oro, and you're listening to The Embargoed, the greatest PR podcast of all time.
Damn straight. There's always something to talk about and a point to make.
And we're going to do it when we want, which is usually every other week.
Whether it's tech, business, sports, music, or your mama, we're going to cover it.
All of it comes from the point of view of public relations, reputation, and communications. Today is Thursday, August 25th, 2022. We are just a few days away from Burning Man starting, Paul, and I'm hoping, well, I'm not going, but my friends are, and I'm going to live through that. I don't think you've ever been. Have you gone?
I've never been, but I have to say one of my favorite guilty pleasures is every year watching Burning Man on YouTube. They've got like the wide shot camera, and it looks like a big old ant farm.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually was a spokesperson for Burning Man at one point. And
nice.
The highlight of my career was I was on the playa and was interviewed by a local TV station out of Sacramento. And that got picked up. And next thing I know, I'm on CNN. And I'm running nationally as a spokesperson for that. And I thought it was pretty cool. But anyways, that's next week. What's going on in your world, Paul?
Well, actually, I think I've got an anecdote to sort of set the table for today before we introduce our second guest. I'm in contract negotiations with a potential client in China. And as you know, at the contract negotiation stage, there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of item stuff. And one of the light items was the payment terms, our fee and how much is up front, how much is once we're done. And in the notes comment section, there was some stuff in there that I don't think they meant for us to see. And one of the lines was the person we were dealing with was sending a note to the lawyer, basically saying, we need to move this along because these guys are charging a third of what Element are charging.
That's a great note to see, and then maybe you can go up to half.
That's right.
So you said we got a guest today, and Paul, I'm going to let you do the intros this week because this is the guy you found, and apparently he's heard our show before, and we've been trying to get him on. And I looked him up, and I'm pretty excited about what's going to happen today. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna name drop right here. This is Michael Young joining us today, and I'm going to let him talk to you a little bit about himself. But I've known Mr. Young for going on 15 years now, and this goes back to when I was a client or a potential client. And quick second anecdote of the day, we're only 3 minutes in, when I was working in-house for a company, and we put a bid out for agencies, and Michael and his agency at the time knocked it out of the park. Great proposal, very much in sync with what I was thinking. And unfortunately at the time we were doing agency judging by committee, and I only had one vote. I lost the vote, and I said, Michael, I feel bad. You guys killed it. You're the best agency to go with. Your team's the best. We are going to find a way to work together again. And I'll be damned, we have found several amazing ways to work together over the years, and not just today. So, Mr. Young, I'm going to hand the mic to you and let you tell us your bona fides.
Welcome, Michael
Awesome.
Young. Yay.
Thank you. Great to be here, guys. Really, really thrilled to be on the pod today. Thanks so much for having me. And that's the story of my life, for all of our lives. Like, you were the best agency by far, but we're giving it to someone else, right? How many times have we heard that? But no, it was true. Like, it was one of those situations where, I knew Paul and I were going to be friends from that day, and we have been. And I think, I stayed at that firm for a number of years after that pitch. And when I started my shop, Paul was one of the first people I called and was like, okay, I'm doing it. He's like, yeah, man, come on in. The water's warm. So yeah, we've collaborated a lot over the years. But anyway, just by way of background, I'm Michael Young. I'm the founder and CEO of Millwright Holdings. We are a boutique agency holding company. We have 3 agencies in our portfolio: Actual, which is a fintech and enterprise tech shop; Warner, which is B2B, and they actually have a big specialization in supply chain and advanced manufacturing. We know how what a big deal that is these days. And then the third one is Bolt PR, which is mostly a consumer shop, but they do a bunch of other things. So 3 agencies, about 45 people in that group, and then we also are investing in new agency startups, which is a whole other thing. But anyway, a boutique agency founder and acquirer, and yeah, that's it. I have a podcast as well, so talk about purpose, corporate purpose.
Nice.
That's it. That's me in a nutshell.
But prior to all this, you did the big agency work at other agencies, et cetera. Yeah,
I did. I worked at I started at a boutique, a very small boutique in Chicago. I got recruited to Ketchum. Then I joined another boutique, and we sold that to Porter Novelli back in Bubble 1, and that became the tech arm, or part of the tech arm of Porter Novelli Convergence Group. And then I also got recruited at Ketchum, and I worked there. And then my last sort of gig before that was the shop that Paul mentioned. I was here in the Bay Area at a boutique, a large boutique firm called Access, and we got acquired by Ketchum. So that was my third tour in Omnicom at that point.
You said, I've seen enough of Omnicom. I'm going to make my own Omnicom. And that's right. You have 3 agencies, right? You're either a WPP or you're an Omnicom. And for those that don't know, those are basically large companies that hold marketing services companies, and PR is one of those. Yeah. Michael, I have to pause here, and we're going to digress a little bit, because this is the Embargoed, and we punch stodgy PR in the face. I actually heard your name many months ago with our previous host, Kevin Wolf. Bless his heart, pour one for that homie. And Paul reaches out. He's like, hey, you got to get this guy Michael Young on it. He's heard your show, and he loves what you guys, because Kevin and he said he loves what you guys are saying and talking about. Because Kevin and I, when we first started the show, it was deep. I called it Deep Into the Pandemic. Let's talk about it. And Kevin has this disdain for large agencies and all the things that go with that. And I wanted to know, what did you hear? What did you talk about? Because we kind of let loose on those things, and I don't know what attracted you to actually being on this whole thing.
I think if you work in this business on the agency side in particular, and set aside client side who hires agencies, right? Like that's, I'm sure you're going to be talking to a lot of people who do that for a living as well. But I think on the inside, I think fundamentally, and this is a daily conversation at our company today, is this is a people business. And it matters the kind of, and this is a vastly overused word, but it matters on the kind of culture that you have. And my experience, and there may be other people who have different experiences, but my experience is there's a huge gap in big agencies between what they say their culture is and what they want it to be seen as, and and the lived experience of the people who work there. And ultimately what that does is that it's a crazy word to apply, but it destroys the agency of the people in the agency, right? So if you work in a big firm, what you really have is no agency. You have no capacity to change anything. You have no, what you are is really, you are enslaved to a utilization model, a spreadsheet, a profit promise. And, those, and the holdcos are calling down every day, every week, every hour sometimes for financial updates, because they've got to make they're trying to make their number. And so when you're enslaved to a number rather than your colleagues and your team and your client outcomes, you're actually serving the wrong master. And I think that, I heard some of that coming out when you guys were talking, and it's something we talk about every day, all the time in our business, is if we want to have a kind of organization that people want to be a part of, yes, we're a business, and yes, we make money, But what we don't have to do is ultimately stress people out, and in the good old days, terrorize them with layoffs and utilization goals that were totally unrealistic. I mean, I was expected to bill. I joined one of those agencies as a vice president. I was expected to bill 200 hours a month. There were people on my teams and on client engagements that I worked with that were billing 220, 240 hours a month, billable.
Wow.
There's 160 hours in a month on a normal work week.
There you go. You do the math. That's coming at the expense of somebody.
And so Michael, my question, one of the things that we love about Millwright and what you're doing is you're sort of bringing that small agency magic to an organization that's larger than mine and larger than what David's doing. How do you straddle that line? How do you keep that small agency magic while you grow, or while you're growing and while you ramping things up?
Yeah, no, that is the big question, right? And I think part of it too, Paul, is that we keep the brands separate, so we haven't homogenized them into a something and partners, right? So we're not trying to make everybody the same. I think what we try to focus on is team and talent first, and we know that from that clients follow. And great client work comes from people who enjoy their jobs, they're relaxed, they understand what's expected of them. And ultimately keeping that spirit alive, that team spirit, is something that we focus on a lot. And yeah, we want to be bigger and we want to grow and we want to acquire more agencies, certainly. But we are very passionate about preserving what's great about these agencies and the culture of those agencies. So it's a challenge, but I think what we try, and look, it's not that hard to do it right. You just have to have your priorities in order, your principles and your values aligned, so that you're not saying one thing and doing another. The old-fashioned word for that was integrity, right? You do what you say you're going to do for your people and for your clients, and things tend to work out. And that's really what we try to focus on, is collapsing the say-do ratio.
We should make integrity a modern word, so that way people can still use it.
Let's bring it back.
Throwing it out the door in a lot of ways,
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
Michael. So, on your agencies now, some of them started pre-pandemic, or yeah. Have you shifted it at all in any way in terms of working? Is everybody remote now? Did you just throw away the expensive offices and kind of gone remote?
Yes, the only agent. So Bolt had offices when we acquired them, and they've since become a work from home, fully remote environment. Nobody wants to go back to the office, by the way. I mean, I think there are many reasons to get together, but that's different than commuting an hour or two a day. Warner, interestingly, we acquired that firm. That was a 20-year-old firm that was almost remote work from home from its inception. And Actual Agency was remote from day one, not out of virtue, but out of poverty, right? We didn't have money for an office, so we just worked remotely before that was a thing. So when the pandemic hit, largely it was another day at the office for us.
Yeah. One of my favorite terms coming out of the pandemic, and being a consultant for a long time, I've been working from home. When I started this, I said, I just need a phone line and internet. I'm good. I'll take care of the rest. Right. Yeah. Well, one of the things that I came back as people started doing this work from home thing, the line that I heard and I still use today, and I kind of repeat it wherever I go: the office is the new offsite. Meaning work from home, do your work, and then when you need to get together, go to the office and have like an offsite meeting, pizza party, powwow, brainstorm, cultural event, whatever you need to do. And I'm hoping that finds a way. But I heard this morning, outside of the Bay Area, San Francisco, where obviously a lot of us have a lot of experience, like Cincinnati, Ohio today, I heard was busier than it was pre-pandemic in the downtown core. Like there's a lot of people who've gone back. People in tech have not.
One of the things I'm seeing, at least with our client base, pre-pandemic, I would say 75% of our clients were either predominantly in the Bay Area or Bay Area based. And it's flipped. I would say maybe 10-20% of our clients are one way or the other in the Bay Area. So one of the things we talk about here often is big agency versus small agency. Michael, I'd love your take on what you're seeing in, with larger agencies today, ones you're competing with, ones we're competing with. Well, whether it's pre-COVID versus post-COVID or just general dynamics, are there any trends that you're seeing that have kind of got under your collar?
Sure. I think the pandemic did well. I thought for a while that the pandemic leveled the playing field in favor of smaller agencies, and then somebody actually pointed out, you know what? No, it actually tipped the scale in our favor. And I think if you go back to fundamentals, first principles, what is it that clients value? They value senior teams who are dedicated, who are working on their business day in and day out. And what did Zoom do? It made that visible. Who's working on your business right now, right? It's literally here. So, it also threw out the lofty veneer of big offices, and those can be spectacular. I mean, the office that I first moved into for Ketchum was one of those mega Omnicom build outs that had a view of Lake Michigan and downtown Chicago, and it was a real heart stopper. And you bring clients into that boardroom and they're like, wow. Well, now when nobody has that, right? Or that's no longer the part of the client experience. What the client experience then becomes about is, who are the people working on my business? Who are the people getting it done for me? And that's where, I think boutiques have an inherent advantage, and where the pandemic made that advantage much more visible to clients. So that's one thing. We tend, in many cases, in many places, see it back to work from home for a second, remote work. We see that there are a lot of agencies, back to, big PR, that are just waiting for things to go back to the way they were. They don't have another playbook, or they're trying to make the least worst decisions about that policy. And I do think and I'll caveat that by saying there are challenges to work from home, but I think what the pandemic has done has allowed agents, smaller or mid-sized agencies, to compete at a level and in a way that they were not able to compete before.
That's a fantastic insight, Michael, because I just thought about that. And I remember my early days when I worked at Fleischman Hillard, San Francisco, second in Market, 595 Market, go up to the 26th floor. And at the time, south of Market was not built out. And you walk in the elevator, and it's just a view of the South Bay and all of that. It's just amazing. And you're like, wow, feel of importance. And we would drag clients in there for that view. And we would stack up we would stack up the office with everybody that was some key people on the account, senior people on the account, and a bunch of people that just looked like a body that would possibly be on the account, but they were never on the account, just to show the strong team. And we'd sit around in a room, have the view, and everybody would, do the song and dance for the client. And then we would have the meetings there, et cetera. But then and this is what we've said in the show in the past, what the senior people are on to new business, trying to bring in more money for the firm. But now you're stuck on Zoom, and every call, let's take attendance. Who's in class today? The guy I hired is not on here. Where is he? What is he doing? And you have to be there. And that veneer, you're right. The veneer of supremacy, for lack of a better word, is gone, giving the edge to boutiques, because not only do you not have to have this expensive office place to look like you're big, bad, and bold, but you can hire senior people anywhere or really good people anywhere and work from anywhere. And you get the advantage of having the right folks because you don't necessarily need them in San Francisco all the time. They could be in Austin or Cincinnati or Memphis, wherever they may be.
Question to both of you guys. So does that mean COVID was the great equalizer for agencies, big and small? If we look at it from that looking glass, does that mean going forward that we're looking at it's the skills, it's the work that matters, or are larger agencies going to come up with something, whatever the 2023, 2024 version of the big office and the dog and pony show? What does the next 5 years look like, big versus small agency?
Yeah, I mean, I look, I don't think by any stretch the bigs are down for the count, right? They have resources, they've got, way more money than any of us have. They've got talent. There are talented people working there, no doubt. But I do think, and and this could be me smoking my own press releases here, but I think there's a difference in work today than there's ever been, and what I want to caveat about work from home, and this relates, Paul, is that it is challenging to bring in staff and mentor them and coach them remotely. No question about it. And where I think bigger firms have an advantage is they could bring in a cohort of folks and put them into any number of onboarding or trainings or just team collaboration environments. Like, there's an environmental aspect of this business that is very important. And I don't want you to think I'm just a champion of work from home and nobody ever has to meet in person. We've all had clients that we've never met. We've had staff members we've never met. But I do think, and to your question or your comment, Paul, that where the bigs will potentially show up and show out is a place and a platform for early and mid-career people to get skills, get training, you get a couple of those, platinum agencies on your resume. That's great, right? But I'm not sure that's where people are going to make their careers in the long term. And what I fundamentally believe about the majors is that they have squandered a crisis, right? And what do we tell people, clients? Don't waste a crisis. They've squandered it. They're waiting for the world to go back to the way it was. And I'm not sure they've got a new 2.0, 3.0 instance of what the agency will be. But their inherent advantage is they have infrastructure, they have smart people, they have money, and they have business that they want to keep, protect, and grow. I think they're going to put everything they've got behind that. And I do think there'll be some other kind of experiential move made at the, for the bigs that we're not going to be able to make at a boutique.
Let's stop praising them. Where are the big dogs stumbling these days?
That's right. Well, I think, look, it's where they always fall down, right? It's what we were talking about a minute ago, where they actually suck the life out of their people, right? That's the real problem. And we have a client that sells software to professional services firms, including agencies. Interestingly enough, and not law firms, consulting firms, any professional services firm, just did a study, just did a survey. There's a huge body of people in large organizations that are looking out either their home office window or the office window and seeing friends and colleagues go out on their own, become consultants, pre-post pandemic, and the grass is looking pretty green, right? So the more that the big agencies do what they always do, which is bear down on their human capital and sweat them like commercial assets, the more they will hemorrhage talent. Full stop. It used to be much harder to pick people off from big agencies. It's gotten a lot easier. And big agencies are just doing it to themselves. They just do it to themselves.
Michael, as you're in your role as a holding company, and I'm sure you're going to expand that portfolio to hundreds in 2 years or so, and however you need to do it. Are you seeing a proliferation? I mean, like, it's a low barrier to entry, right? It doesn't cost too much to get in here. And have you seen a proliferation of startup agencies?
Yeah, well, I've invested in 5 agencies this year.
Okay.
Brand new, right out of the gate. My with a colleague and friend, Tilo Bono from Berlin, he and I have stood up 5 brand new clean sheet agencies, 2 in the UK, 2 in France, and now 1 in Jakarta. And we're doing it for exactly this reason, which is one of our thesis is we want to free talent from the constraints of whatever it is they were doing. Not all of the founders that we've got come out of big agencies. In fact, most of them come out of mid-size. And by mid-size, I mean, 100 to 200 people, not thousands, right? But even at that level, there's a desire to start an agency and to build an agency. And what we're giving them is help. So yes, there are lower barriers to entry. It doesn't cost a lot to start an agency. I started mine in a tent in my garage, right? But what the difference is, and I think where both Millwright and then our sister investment vehicle, MXP Ventures, come in, is we can take away a lot of the back office, a lot of the pain, a lot of the misery that comes with growing an agency. And truthfully, that's what we see as our role, is helping them grow, not looking to just extract some imperial tribute from our portfolios, but rather to give them the information and the financial support they need and the talent and the systems to grow.
When you are evaluating these investments in agencies, what are you looking for?
I think we're looking for somebody that wants to build a $5 million business, over some period of time, and maybe has the desire. But I think more than the business model, and it doesn't just hinge on money; it hinges on the people.
Yeah,
we're literally betting on the jockey, not the horse. And few people ask us, so okay, so you're gonna go by specialization, and you're gonna have a lot of different. No, we're gonna find the people we want to work with for the next 10 years. That's our thesis. Is there's a lot of talent, and we want to find the people we want to work with for the next 10 or more years, maybe 20 years. So,
all right. So this year has changed considerably over the last decade. We were in a growth mode, and now it's sort of, we keep fearing this recession or this slowdown. What are the market indicators that you're seeing out there for the communications professional?
Well, I think we're still on track for a pretty good year. I'm going to knock wood in a moment here, but I think I think we've seen a slowdown in new business pipeline. I think we've seen a slowdown in things converting on the new business side. In some instances and cases, we've seen clients not doing the next new program or the thing that they thought they were going to do. But at the same time, and it's very choppy, right? There are some industries that are doing incredibly well, others that are a little more cautious. But yeah, we've had some turnover, some transitions, some slowdowns, things like that. But I think overall, my sense, and this, I'm not an economist, and I am no way implying that I know anything other than what I can read in Bloomberg or the Wall Street Journal. But it does. Yes, inflation is an issue, but if you look at other factors like job market, if you look at travel bookings, if you look at retail sales, these are all strong indicators that there's still consumer confidence out there, and that may be lagging, but I travel. I mean, we all travel, and wherever I go, it is packed. It's busy. You can't get into a restaurant. There's nowhere to park. The airports are full. So yeah, there are some. I do think there are some macroeconomic things that we need to be concerned about. But I think it all comes. There's a lot of business. I mean, if you're watching this and you're at a small firm or you're an independent, there's a lot of business out there that is not being well serviced at big firms. Just focus on that.
Yeah.
Right? That's where we see, bad years are where we see our strongest growth, because the value, back to what we were talking about before, the value for money that you get, the performance, the unit economics, whatever you want to call it, that you get out of a small firm or a mid-sized firm or a power boutique, even up to a couple hundred, is going to be vastly bigger and better than a large agency. And so I think, again, yeah, there's concern, but there are always clients out there that are being disenfranchised by their agency.
I want to share your same sentiment on what I'm seeing in the market. And I see it not necessarily from the agency world, but from the client world, meaning my clients have slowed down hiring, but they haven't slowed down their income.
Yeah.
Because they're waiting to see what happens. This is almost a recession of fear rather than a recession of reality. And it may get there, like you said, Michael, I'm not an economist, but I keep looking around and people are still doing their things. And yes, stuff is expensive, but particularly here in America, we seem to be humming along. And I'm sure there's lots of people that are not feeling it, but the job market's there. I think clients have just sort of paused. Everybody's just paused right now. And I can almost attribute it to summer break. Everybody went on summer. Let's see what happens this fall. Hopefully things pick up and people have indicators that, whatever we were afraid of is not so bad. Let's begin to invest again. But I like what you said, Michael. Real estate investors talk about, housing's too expensive. Or this property is too expensive. Well, go buy the one that is in need of help and is really run down, fix it, and then you make your money. Okay. Same approach could be said to going after these agencies who are servicing clients really badly, and you can do it. And I used to say to clients, and sometimes I still say it, I do everything a big agency does, but at half the cost. Right. According to Paul's letter, he does it at 1/3 of the cost from what we talked about earlier today. But I think if you find those right opportunities, there's plenty of opportunities out there plenty of work out there to actually find some work for yourselves.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, and Michael, I'm curious if you're seeing this too, especially because your expansion is mostly international. The sort of pause that we're seeing and feeling feels very American centric. I've been getting more international business of late that's sort of filling in the gaps from sort of the longer tail of the biz dev chain.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, you've been there, Paul. The traffic in Jakarta is oppressive, right? People are hustling. It is booming. Singapore is popping. There is so much other work out there and so many other places to look for growth and expansion. And you're right. It is, it's sort of, we kind of get into this bubble here where, we're just thinking about the US, and look, Europe's got its problems, right? There's a war in Europe. China's making all kinds of, weird noises, and things are strange, but overall, just to the maybe somewhat trained or untrained observer, it looks like things are moving forward in a positive way. And I come back to, if we can survive March, April, May, June of 2020,
yeah,
we can survive anything. And we have, right? So I sort of have no fear now of what the future might hold, because that was the most terrifying time in my, I mean, I lived through, 9/11 and the dot-com bust and 2008, just like we all have. And those were weird. Those were scary. But, 2020 was at another level. And I think, if we've survived that, we have nothing to worry about. Just keep focused on your clients and your people. Everything is going to be okay.
And with that, I think that's a positive note to take us out of here. Unless, Paul,
Let's
you have
end this plane, boys. That's a great place to end. So, Michael, before we go, we want to not just thank you for being here today, but is there anything we didn't cover that you want to throw out there to the world?
No, I think we got it all. We got it all going on. Guys, thank you so much for the conversation.
Thank you for being here.
And for always, thank you for tuning in today, folks. It's great seeing you on the Embargoed, and we'll catch you again down the road.